women's and men's soccer is similar, but also I guess maybe different in your priorities. I know for men's soccer, you don't necessarily have to take as much precedence into maybe pursuing other alternatives of income in the future. You know, some people can really dial in and dial down just on becoming a better soccer player, and that's good enough for them. But honestly, majority of female athletes have a day job. Like that's just the truth. You know, they work in the day and they have to train in the evening. You can't afford not to. So I think for our day to day, compared to a men's soccer player, is a bit different. But
So, what does your day to day look like? You said you study. You said you guys train twice a day. What's your day to day look like? What time are you getting up? Just in terms of nutrition, how's your breakfast looking? Lunch, dinner, just for some practical tips for the listeners.
yeah, so I think women's and men's soccer is similar, but also I guess maybe different in your priorities. I know for men's soccer, you don't necessarily have to take as much precedence into maybe pursuing other alternatives of uh, income in the future. You know, some people can really dial in and dial down just on becoming a better soccer player, and that's good enough for them. But for female sports, you have to really honestly, majority of female athletes have a day job. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
just the truth. You know, they work in the day and they have to um, train in the evenings. It's just like you can't afford not to. So I think for our day to day, compared to a men's soccer player, is a bit different. But for me currently, I wake up in the mornings maybe around 8 for to eat something before our trainings. In the mornings, our trainings are either at 9 or at 10. So depending on that day, depends on how early I wake up. And then after that training, I like to go to the gym as it's more individual trainings in the morning, more based off of improving your foot skill, agility, passing accuracy, accepting the ball, kind of just first touch type of stuff, all
Mm-hmm.
individual. You know, there's nothing really team oriented in the mornings. So I find that I have a lot of energy still, and I go right to the gym and I just do some strength. I save fitness for the later sessions. So
Mm-hmm.
after I would do that, I would always come home, make some lunch, and then study really until I have trainings. Currently, I'm doing my master's degree in Vilnius. I'm studying HR, so my classes are online, which is really nice. But they're recorded and they start in the evening, so I miss them, but I'm able to rewatch them in the mornings. So I do that once I come home for 3 hours, and then I get ready for our evening trainings, and I pick up a few teammates and take them with me. So that's always fun driving around the city for almost an hour every day. um,
You're
but
whipping that fresh fiat up yours, huh?
yeah, right.
That's
Um,
clean. It's
just
clean.
zooming around. And then we have our evening trainings. And then after my evening trainings, it's either I come home and try to unwind, or if depending on what I have going on with school, I'll study a little bit more before bed, or um, try to just do some like regular organizational household stuff. You know, you got to make time for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
For
definitely
sure.
time consuming. So I would try to get those in right before bed. And yeah,
For sure.
and
So,
nutrition, you know, like protein shakes after workouts, making sure I have a certain amount of protein in the mornings and in the evenings, and carbs just so I have enough energy. You know, you're working out like twice, 3 times a day. You have to make sure you're in your body. Um, I know a lot of girls that don't necessarily partake in such intensive sports would like also look at me sometimes while I'm eating so much, and they're like, "Oh my God, like you're eating all of that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have to because the way it go, it just the energy it just dissipates so quickly. I am
mhm.
so tired if I don't eat like an abundance of food all the time." You know, and for them, they're like terrified at how much I can eat sometimes.
Yeah,
They're like, wow, 2 sandwiches at once. I'm like, yes, I need all of it, you know, or else
yeah,
I
yeah,
won't be
yeah.
able to train later. And I can really see how my nutrition affects my performance,
Mm,
especially when I go a morning and maybe I don't get enough in. I find wholeheartedly it completely changes how much energy I have for my trainings in the evenings. Like nutrition is so important.
For sure.
Making sure you're eating enough and eating the right foods is so important to even being able
Hmm.
to get better as a soccer player. Because you can show up on the field and you're there, you're present, you're dialed in, but you just can't push yourself to that point of improving, you
Hmm.
know? So
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great point. Obviously, food is energy, and you need the calories to fuel yourself. And like you said, I'm sure the girls looking at you eating all that aren't training as hard as you are. So
yeah.
that's just the moral of the story. But how did you kind of learn about nutrition and what to put into your body?
So we did have a nutritionist in university, um, but it wasn't like as stressed. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
girls were eating like crap as well in university. You just eat what you have, what's available to you. So there's a
Hmm.
lot of times where you're eating junk food from the cafeteria because you just didn't have enough time to meal prep that week. It's just, especially in my college days, I was just running out of time. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
we did a chart and it was like you should have this many hours of studying, this many hours of sleep, this many hours of training and extracurriculars, time for friends. And I think I was like over by something crazy, like 40 hours a week. And I
Yeah.
was like, where am I going to find these 40 hours?
Yeah.
You know, and the nutritionist and the girl who was running the session just said, yeah, you get it from your lack of sleep. You know, you're sleeping less, or you're not prioritizing studying, or you're not seeing your friends and doing things for your mental health. And that's why they have all these huge issues with student athletes just running out of
Mm,
time in the
for sure.
day, you know? So there's a lot of times where I feel like I could have definitely been better as a student athlete if I were to have focused more on my nutrition or meal prepped more or better. And there was times I'm asking my parents, I'm like, please, like, can you just make something, you know, and just put it into little Tupperware dishes. I'll come pick it up. I'll drive over. I'll freeze them, microwave them in the mornings, or take them to school for lunch, you know, because I just don't even have enough time to even like cook for myself. So in university, that was not something that I was particularly like stressed on. It was more like getting a certain GPA, getting those scholarship opportunities, performing on the field. I feel like
Hmm.
nutrition was one of the last things that was on my mind. It was just like whatever I can put in my mouth, I'll do it, you know, like anything from the
Yeah.
cafeteria,
Yeah.
McDonald's, Tim Hortons, you know, like a cult
Yeah.
classic
Yeah.
from Canada, you
Yeah.
know. Um, you know, just anything. So now I feel like in the more recent years, I've been able to really stress what I'm able to eat, that I have like a bit more control, as well as like a bit
Hmm.
more financial freedom to actually explore those more um, effective options, you know, like the different supplements, protein powders, different like uh, options there. So I've been not necessarily the best. I'm not like the cleanest eater, obviously. Um, but I do make sure that I have enough to, like I said before, like fuel my training. So getting that
Hmm.
protein in, having those protein shakes, always having like some hydration supplements all the time with my water and everything, making sure I'm drinking a certain amount of water every day, like just the bare minimums, I guess, when it
Yeah.
comes to that. But it's always something that I wanted to improve upon, and it's always good to know your faults. So that's something that I definitely can improve on for sure, and eat more clean and do those things.
Hmm.
And but I definitely see a huge impact on some of the small changes and even big changes I've made to my diet and how it affects me playing now.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, makes a ton of sense, and obviously you learn from your mistakes, and you find what works for you, and obviously it's always you can't be perfect, it's always gradual progression, and I think sometimes people get, I mean, I'm pretty strict, I'm pretty dialed in, but you gotta enjoy yourself sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
so I think food's a way to connect people, connect with loved ones, connect with good friends, so yeah, I mean, I think you got to find your balance, and based on your body and your training. So yeah, I mean, I think it all makes sense, and the fact that you have that all, in your mind and you're mindful of all of it, I think is the most important. So I think for listeners, I think some of the most important stuff is just to educate yourself, and don't be too strict because, I think the more if you're too strict and too rigid, could lead to, bad behaviors with food. And, that's the last thing that we want.